Well, hello there and welcome back. This is going to be the last harvest video for 2025. It's funny that I thought I lost this video after the day of filming. I got home and realized I didn't have the card in the drone, so there was no footage captured that whole day. So I was frustrated that I missed probably the best field of the whole harvest. But then after a couple months, I got to thinking that the controller keeps some video. So I went through it, and lo and behold, I found this low quality video of our last fields of the harvest of 2025. And so here it is. We're just starting to combine section 19. Section 19 is the field between the old Wright farm and the Schraefel farm. I drove along this field my whole life and always admired it. It has lots of trees over the whole section. It is like a park down in here. So it is a super nice field. Derek's out in front and Adam Duhame's right behind, and I will bring up the rear. I'll bring up the third. So there's no audio on a drone, hence I have to narrate it or put some music to it. Unfortunately, you don't get to hear any of the machines running. But with this last video, I'd like to acknowledge the crew that has helped us all season. I'll start with Kevin Newmeyer. He's our transport engineer, or chief navigator. He operates the grain cart all through harvest, and he does tillage in the summertime. We'd be in big trouble without Kevin. He comes out every day. It's nice to have him. He's a gentle operator. Mark Schraefel is our projects director. He drove one of the trucks this year, one of the tandems. Adam Duhame was an assistant operations engineer. He ran the 8250. He's running that second combine that we're looking at right now. Don Snell, our systems operations engineering department. He'll do whatever we need him to do. He's run combine, and this fall he operated one of the trucks. Derek Schraefel is our chief engineering officer in charge of field operations. He's on the lead machine. He runs the 8240, which is the machine that's out in front. He has the weed destroyer on the back. And then there's Stephen Schraefel. He's the captain of the ship. He coordinates the inventory and looks after, make sure everything's operating properly. And then we have Adam, who is the assistant helmsman. He operated the 2588 for the legumes this year, which was nice. We just had the 8240 and the 2588 working together on the legumes. It worked good. And then he went for greener pastures the rest of the harvest. Then we have Laura, Shelby, and Chandra. They're our science and medical officers and chief advisors. They're actually the bosses. And then our yeoman first class were Dre Snell and Ryder Shepherd. They helped us all summer. During their summer holidays, they were out every day, and sometimes even after football, even after they started school, they come out and helped us. It was pretty nice. So that's the crew. I'm probably forgetting somebody. Then the machinery that we're looking at on the front machine is a 8240 Case IH combine. It has a seed destroyer on the back made by Redicop. So this combine does the field edges and weedy spots and any place we want to restrict our spreading of weeds. The second machine is a little newer machine, an 8250. It was run by myself and Adam Duhame this year. Then the third machine is the 2588, and it's the third machine going up there, and I'm running that machine. I'm running that machine while I'm operating the drone at the same time, so you can see that I'm driving kind of crooked. We run two tandems, a Freightliner, and I forget the other one. We just call it Big Blue. And then we have a Freightliner semi, and then another international tandem that we don't use. It's just kind of a backup machine. And then a Janie cart, 900 bushel cart, with a Kevin Newmeyer run, and with the Cat 95E. Sure love the fall colors that are on the trees as we go along this field. They're just beautiful. This was a slow harvest. We sure didn't break any land speed records. This was a heavy crop, and it went through nice, but it was a heavy crop. The machines worked hard. We burned through a lot of diesel fuel. A little bit of history on the farm. In 1996, Chandra and I moved back to the farm. Bud and Marge were done. 1996, Bud was not feeling great, so he was ready to retire. So Chandra and I and Adam and Stephen moved home. Derek wasn't born yet. And we started farming, and well into the first year, I could see that we weren't going to be able to survive on that little farm. Especially, I'm a spender, and I'd gotten used to making good money in Calgary, and so this just wasn't going to work. So our options were to get some off-farm jobs, which a lot of farmers around this area do. They work off-farm jobs, and then they farm while they're not working. And that's really tough. That's got to be tough. I've worked 9 to 5 jobs. I know that you're tired when you're done, and you sure don't feel like going farming. Cripes, I didn't even want to mow the lawn after I was done a full work day. So that wasn't appealing to me, getting an off-the-farm job. If I was going to do that, I would just stay where I was. So we looked at a lot of different things over that next year, and a couple of friends and myself hired a consultant to come and talk to us about organic farming. Now, in 1996 and 97, there was no organic food on the shelves in Saskatchewan. It was basically an unheard of term. But our research showed that on the coast, on the East Coast and the West Coast, it was a fad that was really catching on, and a lot of people wanted their food without pesticides and without fertilizer. They wanted it grown naturally. So we spent a lot of time looking into this because it went against everything I ever knew or was ever taught about farming. Like it was unheard of around here, and it still is really, to be able to farm without pesticides or herbicides or fertilizer. It's just not heard of. It's insane, really, and we were looked upon that way as being insane. And I know my dad has done some insane things over the years, and people wondered about him. So it must run in the family. So anyway, Don Newmeyer and I and Earl McDonald, we formed a group. We called ourselves Aurora Organics, and we hired a consultant. She came and she spent several days with us trying to convince us to try some. So I think the first year I only tried 40 acres. The other fellows did a lot more than I did. I was really nervous. So I did 40 acres of buckwheat, and it was a disaster. It yielded poorly, and I found out that I should have had bees. So it wasn't great. And then the next year, we just went all in. We said, well, either we do it or we don't. So we went all in, and they don't recommend you doing that because there's so much to learn. But the next year, we didn't spray and we didn't fertilize, and really, we didn't even notice a big decline in the yield the first year. And I remember after the first year saying that even if we couldn't get a premium price, that I would be willing to farm this way, just because our costs were so much less. We didn't put any money other than fuel and machinery and labor into the ground. So it was a trying time, trying to make a living. And then in 2002, which basically it started in 1999, it kind of quit raining, and by 2002 there was no crop. Now the conventional guys or the organic guys, none of us had anything that was even worth combining. So that was a rough one. We borrowed a lot of money to stay on the farm and make it through those years. By 2004 it started to rain and things got a lot better, and we got better at marketing and we were getting good prices. There you can see just to the left of this combine, the drill had some skipping going on. I don't know why, what that would cause. It'll look like that if you turn it off and on, the drill, but something was skipping. And he must have caught it because it's just a little short section in the field there. And you can see Enbridge in the background. We're at about halfway point, coming down this mile long run, watching Derek combine. We had good luck with the machines this year. None of them caused any grief. There you can see the straight shot coming down the whole mile. This is a really nice field. There's nothing in the way. Also, the first couple of years we started a little company. We called it Grains and Things, and Chandra was selling kitchen mills and kitchen machines, so that you could we grew durum, we sold hard red spring wheat, so that you could mill and make semolina for pasta. Within 15 minutes you could go from durum on your kitchen and turn it into fresh pasta, cooking on the stove within 15 minutes. It was pretty amazing, and there was just no pasta that you can buy, dried pasta, that would taste as good as the freshly milled semolina from durum wheat. It was just amazing. So we did pretty good on that. She sold quite a few of those machines, marketing them with some grain. We also sold bags of wheat and flax and other milling grains that you could mill and use for cooking right on the kitchen. It was kind of the slow food movement. We were a bit ahead of our time there. And we sold over the internet, and at that time internet stores were pretty rare, but that's how we got our customers. So we had a lot of fun, and then we got another customer out on the west coast, and they would buy pallets of bagged hard red spring wheat for sprouting, and so they sprouted it, and they went into the wheatgrass juice market. So they sold wheatgrass juice in glasses in malls and health food stores and different places like that, and they went through a lot of wheat at the time. They really liked the wheat grown on the prairies, the protein content and how well they sprouted. And we did that. We found that was a lot of work while we were trying to farm at the same time. So we got to the size where we had to decide whether we were going to be primary production or secondary production. If you're going to process, you've got to spend your time processing. Well, here's a little interesting thing that I noticed while I was filming here, is that our neighbors come by with an untarped trailer which looks like it has canola in the back. So if you know anything about canola, it's kind of light and it blows in the wind. And so for the last few years we've been wondering why we're seeing brassica weeds, canola and mustard along the ditches, and we weren't sure what it was, and then we spread it into our fields, hence the reason we've gone with this seed destroyer on the one combine, and we may put it on all our combines at some point just so we don't spread it around. But I'm very suspicious that this is where these seeds are coming from, is our trucks going through by our fields that aren't tarped. We religiously tarp. Every time a truck leaves the field, it has a tarp over it because, with organic farming, we have lots of weeds, and I don't want to give my weeds to the neighbors, but obviously they don't feel the same about us. So I'm going to pay more close attention to that and see if that's where it's coming from. I'm not quite as concerned as what I was at one time. I thought we were being infested by wild mustard, but we may not be. So we'll look further. This field was actually done before the last field. I just got these clips backwards. This is a quarter section out in front of Stephen's farm. There's nothing like the perspective from a drone. It's just amazing to see the shape of these fields that I've run on all my life and never really kind of saw from the air. It's interesting to me. This video ended up being really jerky. For some reason, that low quality video that was captured on the controller is not nearly as smooth as the original video. Our other videos they're in 4K, and these are really low quality, so they'll be kind of blurry. This is Derek's machine, the Ready Cop machine, and there's the 8250. That's Adam on that machine. You have lots of arguments over the harvest, lots of disagreements. Everybody has different ideas on how to do things, and you've convinced yourself in your mind that your idea is the best. And so it's tough when you're trying to change someone's mind, or you're trying to convince somebody because we kind of operate. Well, we're a family, and I've always said nobody gets fired. You just got to get along. And so even though Steven's the boss and he calls the shots, he takes our conversation. And it's tough when you're trying to make a decision and you want to move ahead and you've got conflict. But so far we've been able to kind of figure it out without coming to blows. Farming is a funny thing. I remember my dad said, when he quit farming, he said, "You'd think I'd had 50 years experience, but I really only had 1 year, and that was last year," because they're all different. This has been just a phenomenal year. I've never seen a year like this harvest or this whole summer. It was just unbelievable. So this is our last go at the wheat. We had a couple of days of running around after doing sloughs and green spots that we had left as we harvested. But considering that we basically went 6 weeks for harvest without any stoppages. There was no rains. There was it was absolutely perfect. The weather was beautiful. It didn't get ugly and windy and stupid, and so we didn't have to worry about getting stuck. We didn't have to worry about rutty roads. It wasn't a drought. In fact, it was far from it. We just had a record harvest. And I'm not 100% sure why. I've mentioned in other videos. We didn't have a record rainfall by any means. In fact, we didn't have a lot of rain, but what we did have was a cool summer, and we had a lot of smoke. And so whether there's more carbon in the smoke, and whether the sunshine didn't heat the crops and allowed them to flower longer, all those things I think came into play. But it was just the perfect year. Everything lined up, and I'm not 100% sure why. Last year, we had what looked like a better crop. It was a thicker stand. It grew taller, but it ran out of moisture at the end, and it quit. It got super hot. It got to 40 degrees, and everything quit flowering shortly after it started. So it was a great stand, but just had a poor yield. So it makes it tough. So we farm several landlords. We farm Lyle and Carol Wright's land. We farm Ritz and Bev's land. We farm Don and Kevin and Trent Newmeyer's land. We farm Larry and Linda Chambers' land. We farm Lighthouse land, and plus our own land. So what used to be the whole district is now basically one farm. So it's been fun, and we'll see you next season when we start seeding.